Good morning! We've got a wonderful event lined up for you today, and we think you're going to love it. Or something like that is what Tim Cook is probably going to say in almost exactly 1 week, because that's right, folks. Apple event invites are out. Let's go. This is super exciting. This is it. The Apple tech drought of 2021 is finally over. And guess what, folks? Today's a special day, because today is September 7th, which marks the 3-month anniversary of Dub, which was the last time that Apple really had anything to say at all. It's been a long 3 months, but things are finally coming together, and the question now is, can Apple deliver on the hype? Okay, so first things first, you may be noticing that this isn't where I normally film. I'm currently in California visiting Noah, the co-host of my podcast Dark Mode, which has been on break for a little while as we've both been moving. I've been moving into the new studio, as you guys know, and Noah's been moving, well, here. I'm helping him move in, and the iPhone event on Tuesday, September 14th, is going to be our big return. And then, starting after that, Dark Mode will be live every Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So we encourage you guys to stop by. It's been a lot of fun for the past couple of months. I haven't talked about it too much here on the channel, but since we are relaunching, we've got some exciting new features. I figured I'd give you guys a heads up. So be ready, because on Tuesday, when the Apple event is live, well, specifically an hour before that, I will be live here on YouTube as well as on Twitch to hype up the event. I'll also be streaming during the event, although the stream will not be embedded in my stream for copyright reasons, and then we'll hang out a little bit afterwards to recap what happened. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing you guys. Now, without any further ado, let's talk about these event invites. So folks, here is the graphic for this year's September event. We've sort of got this glowing Apple logo over a California landmark. I didn't do my research and find out exactly which one this is, so I'm sure that there will be a top comment that I'll pin where someone tells me what this is. But the nickname for this year's event is California Streaming. Please join us for an Apple event broadcasting from Apple Park, 10 a.m. September 14th. I'm really digging the aesthetic this year. Obviously, Apple always knocks it out of the park with their graphics, and it took about 2 minutes of this being posted before people were starting to speculate what this graphic might actually hint at. Now, the thing is, Apple doesn't really give very much away. As much as we all like to go through and hyper-analyze Apple's event invitations, usually they don't give anything away, and if they do, it's something that you kind of already expected. I really honestly don't have any particular hypothesis as of right now for what this event could mean, but there was an additional video to accompany this graphic. Greg Joswiak, who is Apple's SVP of Marketing, tweeted out this video. As you would expect from Apple, the animations and the camera work is super slick. We've got an augmented reality floating, glowing Apple logo, and we go into the same wallpaper from this year's event invite with 914. So nothing particularly crazy or hint-giving, but AR perhaps seems prominently featured in this video. If you have any hypothesis as to what this glowing Apple logo theme, the AR animations, what it may mean, leave a comment down below. I'm very curious to hear your guys' theory. Now, as for the actual content of the event itself, obviously it's a September event. The big thing that we are expecting is iPhone 13. Now, there's been a number of sources that seem to suggest that iPhone 13 will actually be the name of this year's device. People had sort of been waffling between 12S and 13. Personally, I think Apple is kind of moving away from the S branding. It seems like they might be kind of done with that, or maybe they're just saving it for another year. I think more than anything right now, it's sort of a marketing tactic, right? Because the rumors that we've heard for this year's iPhone, it seems like a tough sell. I'm going to be honest, guys. So a couple of things that stand out to me are, Well, for one, we are expecting LTPO displays, which is huge. That's what the Apple Watch uses, and apparently this year what that could mean is 120 Hz refresh rate. Now, this was something that we expected for a while on the iPhone 12, but Apple wasn't able to get it working quite yet. So hopefully this year is the year we'll finally get 120 Hz. It's not a core feature. It's not something that I care about a lot, but it is super great. I love it on the iPad Pro, and it'll be a nice addition. We're also expecting to see a smaller notch. This one might excite some of you. To be honest, I'm not super pressed about it. I mean, I'm sure it'll look nice or different, but honestly, notch or no notch, I don't really care about the size of it. I just care about its presence. If the notch is going away, then I'm excited. If the notch is getting smaller, I'm not really that interested. One thing that does seem interesting is this rumor of a satellite messaging capability. So we don't know a lot about how this could be implemented, but apparently Apple is working on a feature that would allow the iPhone to send messages or perhaps even make emergency calls when there is no service using a satellite connection. Some people were like, oh my gosh, this is like Starlink, we're gonna have no more cell phone plans. It seems like that's not the way that Apple is going to be implementing this. It's mainly for an emergency thing, sending one text, making one 911 call or something like that. But either way, that does seem like a pretty useful and interesting feature. Apart from that, we're expecting better battery life, improved cameras, a couple of little odds and ends, but honestly, this year doesn't seem like it's going to be a super crazy year. And there was a somewhat sketchy report that seemed to be claiming that Apple could increase the price on this year's iPhone. That seems a little bit strange to me. It's going to be a tough sell this year, I think, especially with a price increase for not a ton of features. I can already see the comments on my YouTube channel the moment these iPhones come out where people are like, oh my god, Apple can't innovate, they're not changing anything, this phone is basically nothing. And while I'm probably not going to be as alarmist, I might tend to agree with you if what we've seen so far actually pans out, because it'll basically be a situation like I love to do on this channel where I'm going to say, hey guys, forget about iPhone 13, go get iPhone 12 at a heavy discount, because those things happen every single year. You'll be able to get iPhone 12 way discounted. So if you're not excited about iPhone 13, keep your eye on iPhone 12. I know it's not the most exciting or the most hype-filled take, but it's not a bad one. But there's something that I am actually quite curious about, and that is the fact that Apple has ordered apparently 90 million iPhone 13 units by the end of the year, which is a significant increase from where we were at last year. Now that's odd, right? Why would Apple be releasing a phone that is apparently going to be not as big of an upgrade as last year, and apparently features a price increase due to the chip shortage, but then order a ton of extra units? Well, I think there's a couple of reasons for this. Number one, Apple could be stockpiling inventory so that it lasts longer when they try to sell on day one. They'll have a little bit more, be able to get some of those sales in before delivery dates start to slip. Number two is they could just be anticipating increased demand because of the pandemic. People have been buying up technology like crazy. I mean, every piece of new tech has been in short supply. Their own iPad Pros with the mini LED displays have been pretty hard to come by for a while now. The iMacs had slipping delivery dates for a while. M1 Macs are selling like hotcakes. And of course, there's all the usual extra Apple stuff like graphics cards and game consoles that are completely wall-to-wall sold out. So it's possible that Apple is just trying to cover their bases here and not, in fact, expecting a super cycle. So apart from the iPhone 13, we are expecting a number of other products, mainly, as usual, a new Apple Watch. Now, this year's Apple Watch is apparently going to be the Series 7, and supposedly it features a redesign. This is pretty exciting. We're going to be bumping up the screen size yet again and moving over to a more iPad Pro-esque design language. That's been a pretty common theme with almost every rumor for future Apple products. It seems like the iPad Pro is absolutely setting the design trend, which is pretty impressive because it came out 3 years ago. So honestly, it's kind of killing it. But apparently this year we are going to be getting an Apple Watch that looks more like an iPad Pro, and one of the controversies about this has been whether or not the bands will be compatible with existing Apple Watch sizes. Now, if you actually look at the Apple Watch itself, I don't think this is likely because the bands are pretty much sculpted to fit the curvature of the Apple Watch. and apparently there will no longer be curvature on the new Apple Watch. So if they fit, they'll look weird, and if they don't fit, I won't be surprised at all. It's definitely a bummer, but that's what happens when we get redesigns. People wanted a fresh design for the Apple Watch, and that's probably just one of the things that we're going to have to live with a new design. Speaking of new design, we are also expecting a new iPad mini. Now, I had a video a couple of days ago on this channel, as well as one with Sam from iUpdate, who I was visiting, where we sort of unpacked what we're expecting for this new iPad mini. Now, one of the big takeaways that we came up with was we've seen this new rumor about an iPad Pro, but small, basically, like an 8.5-inch design that looks a lot like an iPad Air with the single camera on the back, Touch ID and the lock button, all of that same stuff, the colors, everything. And we basically said, well, what if it's not an iPad mini? What if this is just a smaller iPad Air? Apple has two sizes of iPad Pro, so why not just have two sizes of iPad Air? It would simplify the lineup. You could have the base model iPad, iPad Air 8.5, iPad Air 10.9, iPad Pro 11, iPad Pro 12.9. 5 iPads, pretty similar. I think that's a pretty decent way to structure it. And it would kind of solve the problem with the current iPad mini, which is that it's kind of weird and nobody really buys it anymore. But this new iPad mini, or I guess iPad Air, but this new smaller 8.5-inch iPad Air does seem really compelling. I mean, an 8.5-inch display, but pretty much everything else would be the same as an iPad Air. Probably have an A14, the Touch ID, the single camera, the colors. That's a pretty interesting device. It's something that I think Apple could really make work. I'm a big fan of the iPad Pro 11-inch, and one of the reasons is that I like to use it away from the keyboard case, in portrait mode. And one thing that the iPad mini does really well is that if you're holding it vertically, you can actually type with your thumbs, which adds another level of utility in that mode. And I think an 8.5-inch iPad would be able to do that, but also have the new design language and a larger screen. That's a really interesting proposition, and I'm really excited to see what Apple comes up with. As far as this year's event, those 3 products are likely all we're going to get. There's probably going to be an update on services, you know, a typical little bit of fluff that is thrown in there to pad out the event, but we are expecting a new iPhone, new Apple Watch, and hopefully this new iPad mini. We have seen some evidence to suggest that the iPad mini is coming this month at this event, although it hasn't been confirmed by a lot of the big sources, so it's still a little bit iffy. Now, looking forward, because I know a lot of you guys are excited about Mac content, I don't think you're gonna have to wait all that long, folks. Things are coming together. There's a new report today that came out literally like a minute before the event invites went out that says that MacBook Pro Mini LED suppliers are saying that shipments are good, shipments are on schedule. This is a really big deal because basically the reason that these MacBook Pros keep getting delayed is because we keep hearing news about mini LED issues. This also happened with the iPad Pro. Back when that launched, they were pretty hard to find because Apple was struggling to manufacture them. And then we were also hearing reports that, you know, just all of the mini LED supply chain was struggling. And as a result of that, that's why we haven't seen these MacBook Pros yet, because they just really had a tough time getting these things working. But it seems like now production is in, you know, full steam ahead, and that's good news because we are expecting an Apple event again next month. So I've been predicting October 26th. That would be in line with what Apple has done in the past for October events. And honestly, I think it's going to happen, folks. I really do. I think we are finally in the home stretch. MacBook Pros are coming out. We got iPhone 13 literally a week away. The tech drought is over, folks. If you're excited for these Apple events, make sure to leave a like down below. Leave a comment letting me know what you are most excited for, whether it's at this iPhone event or the event next month that we are expecting. I'm very curious to hear your guys' take. And with that, I will see you all in the next video.